Okay, welcome in everyone. I just thought I'd throw in a little bit of Russell Coit to start with. So what I was saying the other day about that I would put up whatever image came up on my MacBook or my iPad when I went to start of the morning. I won't show the one that came up on my iPad, but I'll tell you which one in a moment. This was what came up on my MacBook this morning when I started it up. Which I think is very much a reminder of why we're all here. Just that the bruise on Jack's face and the look on his face. So it was, a bit of a reminder of why we're still here. No, I'm shifting Maddie Monday to actual Monday on like the other side of the world. So if you're in the southern hemisphere, or at least in brain work, please. If you're in this time zone, then Maddie Monday is kind of Maddie Tuesday. So today is Lily and Jack. Tomorrow is Maddie. Welcome in, everyone. Deborah, JJ, Kelly, Hugging Demons. Yeah. So it's Sunday there for you guys. So I'm going to make it my actual Maddie Monday. Someone pointed that out to me a few weeks ago, so I switched it to my Tuesday and your Monday. Welcome in anyone who I haven't said welcome to. Ariel, Callie, Camilla. I'm just going to guess Camilla's here. Denise. Teresa, I'm not sure if I actually said welcome in. Yeah, so this is what came up on my welcome in, Sky Painter. And I forgot that that's what this one was about when I even put this picture of Jack up. So yeah, I am broadcasting from the future. That beanie goes a long way down, doesn't it? Good point. Good point. Welcome in, Nonny. Welcome in, Hemi. Hugging Demons. Yeah. It's a scary thought. So the image that came up on my MacBook, on my iPad, sorry, that I'm not going to share was Daniel. So I thought it was kind of, I don't know if apt is the right word, but didn't seem overly coincidental that you had Jack come up on one screen with the big black eye and Daniel come up on the other screen looking smug and arrogant and Daniel-like. Anyway, what can you say? It's a bit of a sobering start to the day, that's for sure. But at the same time, I think sometimes we do just need that little reminder. Heartbreaking, but yeah. There's also, I normally, normally don't share these on my public live streams, but hey, what the heck? There's also this one came up, Trouble 1 and Trouble 2. So, but I'll take them off the screen because they're only just going up there briefly. And then Trouble 1. I should mention that the big bed that they're in is actually Tarka's big bed, not theirs. It's like a massive, massive bed that they stole from Tarka. Because that's what you do. Yeah. I agree, Hugging Demons. Yeah, that looks like a bruise on his chin, straight down from on the same side. His chin actually looks a bit puffed out. It is too, isn't it? If it's an excursion, then he was probably sent without a beanie. So it's possibly one that a teacher gave him. It looks like it's probably one of those thermal ones, which I'm guessing is probably essential in Canada. Rendition? Still haven't ruled out rendition. Autocorrect has changed what you said, hugging demons, and I can't quite figure out what you're trying to say. Abduction? No. Rendition? Are you just trying to mess with my head? Gotta love autocorrect, haven't you? Oh dear. Anyway. Your daughter has that same hat. Yeah, it looks like the same as what Cheryl's got as well. Uncle Sam taught you that. I don't know what rendition means. I'm confused. This one is from the school. This was one of the journal. Oh, right, Callie, you're telling me what that means. Got it. Sorry, I'm a bit behind. One of the journalists found it in the school's on the school's webpage and published it. So that's where this comes from, basically. Okay, yeah. Everyone in Carhartt that's never worked a day in their lives. I know, the split lip and the massive bruise under his eye, and if you actually, I can't zoom in, but if you zoom in, you can see the bruise is massive, like it goes up into his eyebrow as well. And he does look like his bottom of his cheek is swollen. And just the look on his face. It's so heartbreaking. Oh dear. So I'd never heard of Carhartt. So that logo is Carhartt, is it? Because I'd only heard of it. I'd never heard of it until the Delphi case. But yeah. Okay, so haven't got any clips or anything prepared. I'm just gonna jump straight into the audio. Right. I'm kind of a bit behind, but I'm checking out the comments. I'm going to just jump straight into the audio with Daniel. I thought the title, talking about his dark side, is very appropriate because a lot of what he's saying here is basically really going at Malaya. I'm not sure how many toilet breaks he's had at this stage. He's definitely had one. I'm not sure if this is before the second one, but he kind of, after his toilet break, he came back all kind of fired up. Also, it wasn't just me who hadn't heard of Carhartt before Delphi. Okie dokie, that's okay then. Straight away, when I hear Carhartt, I think of Bridge Guy. Anyway, let's get on with this.
Absolutely.
So,
But so
And I have ran it back a little bit. It's just easier than trying to cue it up to the exact spot again as well. Carhartt is big with outdoorsy and construction guys, right? I can't even think of the brand that we've got here that's like a kind of a tradie brand. Although we have I can't even think we have a big like workwear brand here in Australia that advertises flat out so everyone knows what it is, except that right now my brain isn't telling me what it is. But that makes sense completely. Yep, that's kind of what I think too. Yeah, we get Columbia, we get Southern Face. There's an Australian brand as well that's my brain is just not giving me brand names at all today. Welcome in, Dawn. Good to see you here. Yeah, there's certainly good brands that I'd wear, but even if we had Carhartt in Australia, I don't think I could. Yeah, North Face is good. It's one of the more popular brands here. UV index is falling, getting ready to run errands, probably won't chat. Cool, go and do your thing. Welcome in, Sheila, good to see you. Okay.
did she do meth? Did she do drugs? Because
Malaya, as far as I know, when she was with me, she has never touched hard drugs. I have never convinced her to do any drugs.
okay,
Like I'm not like that, but she did. She had a shatter pen, which is, I think some of the viewers may not know what that is. What it is
Right.
just concentrated THC in a vape, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
smoked that.
Thank you, Ben. Hard Yakka, that's the one I was thinking of. Hard Yakka and King G, they're the Aussie versions of Carhartt. I think it's a bit like that here in Australia too. If you wear hard, not so much with King G, but if you wear Hard Yakka, people kind of think, you should be a tradie. Yeah, him and that whole, I've got to go use the restroom. Like, sure, Daniel, that's what we believe. So we had this bit yesterday, him basically working up to crapping all over Malaya and suggesting that she wanted to continue using a shatter pen when she was breastfeeding the baby, but Daniel was the one who saw reason and said, no, you can't do that. And that's the thing. And I don't think that Malaya would have actually resisted very much at all. You just have to look at the partying that she's been doing since then. You just have to look at what Hayley was saying about Malaya and Hayden going to Cindy's place and getting plastered. I just do not think that she would have just sat there while Daniel got into stuff. But I think he's afraid of getting into trouble. Either that or he's holding it over her. If you don't continue to, toe the line, that's when I'm going to actually tell people. Oh yeah, that's the thing, is love bomb them and then give them free drugs. I can't see Malaya being the sort to turn down any sort of free substances that Daniel might hand over. So I just, it doesn't ring true for me. Oh yeah, look, you know, if you go back and you look at news stories, Henry wasn't just an alcoholic. I do find it interesting, but I'm not going to go down that path because certain people run with things like that on another channel and then it becomes a big drama story. But yeah, Henry had an arrest for other things anyway. No, he would not have had to twist her arm. I think now, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Hemi. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it that marijuana is legal there, but it's got to be obviously from a proper dispensary? Okay, it is legal in Canada. We can't even get gummies here. Sucks. Yeah, I really don't think Malaya needed convincing. I think Daniel, I'd like to know the motivation, because every other thing that he could throw at Malaya he has. But each time it comes back to, did she do any rugs? Straight up, it's no. But I think when you look at the way he said it, it's him saying, I wouldn't have given the stuff to her. So I think the reason he's denying that Malaya ever did any rugs is because he would have to admit that he was supplying her with those rugs. Yeah, gave himself a little out to the question, that's for sure. And he skimmed over it pretty quickly. He jumped straight onto talking about the vape. It does seem that he's basically avoided talking about the heavy stuff and skipped straight onto talking about the vape. Welcome in, Cool J. And welcome in, Karen, if I didn't say that. Yeah, I don't think she's an innocent princess.
She did want to do it when she was breastfeeding Meadow, and I told her no.
Right.
I said no, like that's a terrible thing to do. So she waited until she was done breastfeeding Meadow.
Right.
Note again, we get the terrible, so the long vowels on terrible. Usually that means he's working on his narrative there. Do we really believe that he would have said that? I'm sorry, but he's not the virtuous person that we think he is. This whole interview with Sonny, it's all about PR. It's all about Daniel the hero, Daniel the good guy. But seriously?
Is our daughter's name. So I'm going to refer to her as just our daughter.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even said her name. And that's what pisses me off about Anita is she just keeps talking about our daughter, me and Malaya's daughter, and that really bugs me because she has nothing to do with anything. She should never be a topic of conversation.
So he's getting himself fired up, originally over Anita, but because he's fired up, I think this is the reason why he moves on to Malaya. Oh yeah, he's now a certified lactation consultant as well. Totally. Oh, he's a saint, Saint Daniel. Yeah, but I don't think she sees it that way. I would like to know if while she was getting into the booze and the drugs, if she was still taking prescription medication. Not to mention she lacks an enzyme to metabolize alcohol. Not quite sure what you mean by that. But I know some people just don't metabolize alcohol. And we've heard that she got quite violent with Cody in front of Belinda when she was drinking. So, as much as we talk about Daniel's issues, it would be very, very interesting to actually know the full story with Malaya. Because I think if we knew the full story, we might not be surprised, but I think it might paint a bigger picture. But okay, so Daniel's going on again about how Scam Nita shouldn't have their daughter's name in her mouth, and I agree. She shouldn't even be out in public talking, in my opinion. But Baby M shouldn't be a topic of conversation. She's an unfortunate victim in this case herself. I've noticed, though, after screwing up so much in Charmaine's live stream where he kept referring to Baby M as his daughter, so far he's actually managed to remember to refer to her as our daughter. Only once you get me and Malaya's daughter, but he's at least learnt to correct himself because he's realised that he can't keep referring to her as his daughter because that's a bit of a giveaway. Yeah, now that's the truth. So is it a thing where because of her being, half native that's going to interfere with how she metabolizes things? But not only that, if she was still on any sort of medications, that's going to affect how she metabolizes stuff as well. There are so many things. Okay.
I only know what Anita's said on that other channel we're not going to mention. But,
Right.
to have, for Malaya to have our daughter around her, that was a very poor decision because we see what she's like.
So it's taken him less than 30 seconds to swing from Scamnita straight across back to Malaya. Scamnita's a bad person, but hey, Malaya's a worse person for allowing the baby near her. Dr. Dan, the drug-addled voice of reason. So too true. Polymorphisms are more common in other ethnic groups. Okay, cool. So probably with alcohol, but probably not with drugs. Okay, cool. Yeah, straight on to let's crap all over Malaya. We'll mention Anita because that gives us an excuse to get riled up. And having got riled up, it's now an excuse to lay all that on Malaya. I just want to point out, from what we know, Scam Nita just basically turned up at Cindy's because this is what I've heard. It seems to be a habit of for her. I've heard that she got evicted from wherever it was she was, and she turned up at Cindy's because she had nowhere to live. I don't believe her story of turning up to help with the baby. I think she was just someone who was couch surfing. She was there for a week, and then moved on. That's basically what I can figure out in context from what everyone's been saying. Oh, exactly. I don't think Malaya could have predicted that. And I don't think that Anita had the access to baby M that she claims that she did. I think it is just another one of her grossly exaggerated stories. I mean, we've heard from Malaya's side that she only babysit baby M for a few hours. I think we have to find a middle ground because we know that Cheryl and Malaya and that aren't entirely truthful the whole time either. But I really don't think that Anita had the sort of access to baby M that she claims. In fact, I know she didn't have the access to baby M that she claims. And I think, as arrogant as Daniel sounds, I think he's smart enough to realise that. But it's convenient here for him to make it sound like Anita did have all this access. Oh, wow. Unreal. Kaylee Anthony would have been 21 today. Well, I hope that Casey Anthony is having the worst day ever. And I hope that if she goes out in public, that people recognise her and that people even say things to her. I normally don't advocate people going real life, but honest to God, I hope that today someone recognises Casey Anthony and just reminds her what a scum she is. That little baby should be 21. That's unreal. It is hard to believe. Absolutely. It's these milestones that just remind you. I can remember with the Delphi case, Patty posting when Libby's friends were graduating from high school. And that just brought it all home as well in terms of how much of a legacy these children are missing out on. Yeah, it's kind of very apt, isn't it? That there is that whole partying vibe. Malaya's off partying while her kids are missing. I can't believe time really does fly. 21. I'm lost for words just thinking about it. You thought Anita was picked for the job out of the blue. That's what Anita wants people to think. She thinks she's claiming that she was a court-approved babysitter or something like that. Not so much. Can you imagine her being a court-approved babysitter? She does look tired in that, doesn't she? Yes, exactly, Belinda, and welcome in. Unless CPS or MCU speak up, you can't believe any of them. 100%. I mean, the stories just differ so much. The video that I put out last night, which ended up in me getting to bed really, really late because it ended up being longer than I expected, where I was talking about the lies around the blanket, highlights that so much because it shows not just Daniel's lies, but then Malaya's lies as well. Oops. Until you neglect and lose your own children, you have no idea how you respond. I guess. Still, you know, if she's claiming that she doesn't know what happened to her children, why isn't she out here pleading for them? Why is it that the first thing we hear from Malaya, or the first message that we're given from Malaya, because she won't come out and say it for herself, after 15 months, is just a new version of where the blanket was? Like, why is that the priority? Your children are missing. They've been gone for 15 months. And the message you want the public to get is that... I know, Hemi. The message you want the public to get is, oh, but the piece of blanket was on the banister out the front. It was intended to throw shade at Daniel. It was intended to throw the accusation back at Daniel of the piece of blanket being planted. So why? Why is that more important? Why is it more important to throw shade at Daniel than it is to actually speak up for your children? Oh, there was that too. I'd forgotten about that. Oh, yeah, and she was getting served breakfast in bed. That didn't last. So did it. Apparently, they broke up. Oh, you've still got the bamboo stick and boots that you used during your search with Texas EquiSearch, and you've dubbed them your Kaylee stick and Kaylee boots. Yeah. That must have been so hard doing that search and coming out empty-handed. Yeah, the blanket revisit came after the breakfast in bed thing. First, we had to do the announcement that she had a new boyfriend that was so good because he was giving her breakfast in bed. Who knows? It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me if part of, the way things went was because she spoke about Daniel too much. Okay, so now we are segueing from Anita back to throwing as much shade on Malaya as possible because that's what he likes to do. Yeah, exactly. The messages are directed at Daniel. They're not anything about Lily and Jack. I'm sorry, but if your children are missing and you've suddenly become best buddies with a content creator, wouldn't you use that to advocate for your children? I mean, maybe she should actually ask Belinda what she should be doing for her children. Or just pay attention to what Belinda's been doing for the last 13, 14 months since June of last year. Because Belinda's not using content creators to push a narrative about Malaya or about Daniel. Belinda's using content creators to get the message out about Lily and Jack, to get awareness out about Lily and Jack. So maybe Malaya needs to pay attention to that and learn something. Yeah, sadly that's true. And welcome in, Tammy. And Amy, I don't think I said welcome in. Yeah, they did claim it was used to keep the draft out. Interesting, the story that was put out from Malaya's camp about the blanket, because it seems like they sat there, they worked out all the holes that we'd pointed out in Daniel's narrative and came up with a narrative that addressed all those. That's the thing. Enough of the proxy BS. Just come out and talk. Even if it's not talking about Daniel, come out and talk about your children. Everything we know, sorry, hang on. Everything we know, or the most of what we know about Lily and Jack, comes from Belinda. I mean, we have this whole shallow thing of from Janie and that you know, Jack likes worms, Jack likes centipedes. Lily always says, "Come on, Jackie, let's go, Jackie." Nothing real. Yeah. She doesn't have to come on a live stream if she's so afraid. She can actually do a pre-recorded video. I mean, you can pre-record things on StreamYard, and then you can go into YouTube and you can edit them, or you can download them and edit them. Yeah, I mean, if that was her that made the 8:20 call, although I can't see why Daniel would try and do it from her phone. Yeah. She's the puppet master. She had Cheryl do it for so long. Yeah, I think so. I do feel that she's taken a leaf out of Jen Soto's book and is just going on with life and has just blocked Lily and Jack out completely. I mean, surely that's the only way a mother could continue to go on every day when their children are missing and when they're not actually acting on it. Jack's eyes look totally different in this picture from the Carhartt hat picture. They're symmetrical here, but one is swollen and more closed in. Yeah, definitely. And also you can see, definitely from the Carhartt picture, there was definitely swelling in his, like, lower cheek heading around his jawline. Yeah, she's definitely detached, 100%. Yeah. She's just focusing now on getting baby M back. So, you know, let's just forget about the two that are gone and Really do need to start digging into Sebastian's case. You know, I've only kind of observed from a distance because he went missing at the same time as Maddie. But, I'm sorry about that, Belinda. That's, yeah. So she's going on the defense. I just, you and Chelsea are the only shining light in this case. And I just don't understand. Well, I do understand why Malaya and Daniel want to attack you, because for them, it shows up how horrid they are. It shows up the fact that they just don't give a damn about Lily and Jack. But, you know, she should be grateful. She should have been grateful that her children had you as their grandmother. I bet the mothers of your other grandchildren know how blessed they are. Well, I know Chelsea knows she's blessed. I just can't with Malaya, honestly. No, see, I kind of don't think, the LCMP have made it pretty clear the children aren't alive. Yeah, now, if she truly didn't know where her children were or what happened to her children, you would think that she would want to be allies with Belinda, not attack her. So true. So true.
Accusing Malaya of being a prostitute, of me pimping out Malaya, of me drugging Malaya. This is all completely false claims, and you know the public is just eating that up because they're looking for drama. A lot of and you know this, a lot of people in the true crime community, I've had to learn this the most difficult way possible over the last year, is a lot of them seek entertainment and drama because it's just thrilling for them. They see.
So he hasn't quite finished with Anita. He started moving towards Malaya, but he's got to swing back and have another swing at Anita because she said stuff about him, so he has to get the attack in. Yeah, look, I agree. Her treatment of Belinda certainly raises eyebrows. Yep, I agree. That is exactly the reason why when she took off on the Saturday, she blocked Belinda as well as blocking Daniel and everyone else. Because that feeling of guilt and that feeling of she didn't want to communicate with Belinda because she didn't want Belinda to see through her and realise that she knew what happened to Belinda's grandchildren. So true. Look, the irony of the situation is just that, isn't it? Like, you know, at the beginning he comes out saying, "Look, I'm the one who's coming out for Lily and Jack. I'm the one who's still talking." Whereas the motivation for him all along has been for this to go away. But because he can't help himself, because he's got to control the narrative, because he's got to be front and centre, he's keeping the case alive. When at this point in time, now that he knows the focus is on him, he wants it to go away. Yeah. Welcome in, pretty birds. Sadly, there are people who seem to be more interested in the false narratives and the drama than Lily and Jack, which breaks my heart. But I think, the majority of us are here for Lily and Jack. Yesterday I had a list of other things I should be working on in terms of content, but it was just eating at me so much about the lives about the blanket that I was like, okay, I know I did a live stream for Lily and Jack this morning, but I'm going to do a video this evening as well. I just cannot leave this alone. No matter how hard I try, no matter how long the list gets of things I should be discussing with other cases, I still keep coming back to Lily and Jack. Yeah, Malaya's being shielded. You're so right. So right.
As a reality TV, like real life reality TV show, and this is a tragic event that happened.
Again, this is a tragic event. I don't know how many times he's used the word tragic. But when someone tells me something is a tragic event, straight away I think accident, death, something really horrible happening. Exactly, you are spot on, Belinda. It's that whole plausible deniability. It's that whole, I didn't say that. They said that. They misinterpreted what I said. And also just the hiding out so that people can't ask the hard questions. That's what it all comes down to. His use of the team. Daniel would like to be in a reality show. I think he's treating it himself like a reality show. All the media interviews until his charges happened. Yep, tragic, pain and sorrow. Grieving. I think that was brought up by Daniel at one point in time. There's so many of these words that they use. And Janie, this is where it all happened. Or this is where it happened. So often you hear them, when they refer to Lily and Jack going missing, they refer to it in terms of a single event. Not children going missing, but a single event, this one single moment in time. I pointed that out so many times. I need to go back through all this audio and pull all this out, because it is staggering the number of times when you get these references that point to one single, essentially catastrophic event. The way they talk about it does not suggest the children going missing. It suggests something happening to the children, and we know. I hate thinking about it. Here I am talking about Malaya blocking things out, but I have to push it to the back of my mind a lot, because I wouldn't be able to come on and do a live stream if I really stopped and thought about the situation.
You can't ever take anything away from that, but people see it as entertainment, and everyone has the right to their opinion, but there's a fine line between an opinion and just making a completely false claim.
Well,
sorry, I'm just trying to find the words. There's a fine line between having an opinion and making a completely false claim. Tell us about that, Daniel. The second blanket that didn't exist? Just for one, I could probably go all day. He's so pompous. But how ironic is it to have that coming out of his mouth? Oh dear. Yeah, I agree. When she left, it did destroy the original narrative. That's what amazes me. Janie has essentially made the choice of supporting this low-life scumbag over having the opportunity to see her grandchildren. Like, I don't understand that. Does she not realise that Daniel's going to end up in jail regardless? Her choice is when Daniel's locked up, because I think Janie probably won't end up in jail. Her choice is, does she want, when Daniel's locked up, to still be unable to see her grandchildren? Or does she want to accept the fact that Daniel is going to be locked up and basically do something so that she can see her grandchildren again? Sorry. Yep. Daniel's picture is in the dictionary under the word oxymoron. You are 100% spot on. I just have to jot that down. So true. She should, but I could imagine a lawyer telling her to shut up, telling her not to speak in court, and the whatever the health issues were that prevented her from doing a polygraph exam. I think that would be pushed in court, and I could imagine a jury being convinced to either go with a lesser charge or not convict her. I think she should be. But I think that a defense attorney could possibly get a jury to be sympathetic. You just need a damn good prosecutor, in my opinion.
I mean, she obviously doesn't lack any filter on her mouth for sure. She just kind of says things that doesn't matter. Doesn't seem to like, no, because she has, I mean, said things that are obviously what would be deemed as really slander.
That's why I call her Anita Attention.
You
is
know,
because she just seeks attention any way possible. And I see that coming up on the screen where it says, how many peace bonds do you have against you? Belinda's asking. I have 0.
I wouldn't be surprised if he definitely does have peace bonds against him. He's slipped up a number of times where he's made comments that definitely suggest that he has got peace bonds. Good to see you in here too, Corbin. So, yeah, I'm not buying that. I think he definitely... You just have to go back and listen to the number of slip-ups that he makes that definitely suggests that there are peace bonds.
on there. Okay, thank you.
I have 0. I have 0. And
How many times does he have to say it? I have 0. I have 0. I have 0. Yep, you've got 0, Daniel, sure. 0 something. Oh, for sure, for sure. She's definitely guilty of obstruction, conspiracy to obstruct. You know, there could also be secondary charges if she was present when whatever happened. But I could imagine a defense lawyer. I think I've just become cynical after the Paul Flores case, because I think everyone who was following that thought it was a slam dunk with Ruben Flores. They found so much solid evidence that Kristen's remains had been buried under his deck. And that, for the most part, was one of the big things that convicted Paul Flores. And yet, because Ruben Flores had a separate jury, they came back with a not guilty verdict when it was so clear that he was guilty. And I think that just kind of reminded me how easy it is to sway juries, and how you can think that it's a slam dunk case, and that happens. I would like to see Janie convicted, but I do feel that it's quite possible that a good defense lawyer could completely convince a jury, which is it's a sad, scary thought. Oh yeah, that parking lot incident, so disturbing, and he continues to play it down. You've got that pretty much verbatim. Yeah, he did. It was around the time of the vigil, the first vigil, when they put the thingies up in the sky. He came out and said that, don't attack Malaya. You know, it's impacting her mental health and it will affect our daughter, along those lines. That, of course, was intended to throw shade on Malaya again, to establish the idea that she's got mental health problems, because that's something that he's continued to push, which is classic coercive control. He hasn't stopped. He's just doing it publicly so that she can still witness it.
the only provision I have against me is I can't go to Indian Brook Reserve.
Right. Now,
and that's not for stalking anyone. That's not for. It's just a provision that's in place.
Did we ask you about stalking anyone, Daniel? That's a very specific thing to bring up. He can't go to Indian Brook, but that's not for stalking anyone. Where does that come from, Daniel? None of us have ever brought that up. I think you're leaking again. I know. He does this so often. He gives these denials just like this. That is like, hey, this is you know, the truth. I've lost count of the number of times he's done that. But oh dear, provisional. Yeah, him and his words, honestly. But yeah, we'll just play that little bit again because he does not realise what he's doing even. In the early days, he said he was afraid to go to the reserve. I would imagine that if he did go to the reserve, there might be people who might want to deal with him. But he cannot help give himself away.
I have 0. And the only provision I have against me is I can't go to Indian Brook Reserve.
Right. Now,
And that's not for stalking anyone. That's not for. It's just a provision that's in place.
Hi, Shek Hairs. Good to see you. Yeah, he's a walking red flag. Totally. I completely agree. He can't help himself. He just has to blurt it out. He doesn't even realise when he's doing it. Anyway, he is the malignant narcissist, 100%.
Which I can't dive into the information on that because, of the matters at hand. But I just wanted to say that out. Yeah, investigator.
Again, he's going out of his way to basically breach his undertaking because he can't help himself. Because he knows that people listening are going to know exactly what he's talking about there. I reckon they should just slap some cuffs on him now. Because that's at least the second time when he has intentionally breached his undertaking. Yeah, it could be to bolster Durwood's story about the children being hidden by the Indigenous leaders. Oh dear. Yep, I like that. Snorkel up, we're going diving again.
Also told me early on, do not go to Indian Brook Reserve. If you go onto that reserve, Daniel, you probably won't make it off.
I kind of.
If you go on that reserve, you probably won't make it off. Well, yep, probably. I could imagine he'd have a bit of a target on him. I can't imagine, though, that law enforcement would have put it that way. He's trying to make it sound that the reason he can't go there is because, people might attack him. Whereas the reality of the situation is I'm pretty certain that there probably is an order that prevents him from going anywhere. Well, we know that as part of his undertaking, he's not allowed to go there. But I'm pretty certain that that was in place beforehand as well, just not part of that.
Which I can't dive into the information on that because, of the matters at hand. But I just wanted to say that out. Yeah, investigators also told me early on, do not go to Indian Brook Reserve. If you go onto that reserve, Daniel, you probably won't make it off.
I kind of spoke for you on that about what Anita had said, the reason about why Malaya couldn't be, say, alone with Meadow.
I think we already know this by now. Malaya is a flight risk. With our daughter. I mean, that.
Here we go. Now he's ready to launch in, and he's just going to go all out attacking Malaya.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we already kind of established that. I think the public kind of knows that by now. And also as well, there's a lot of stuff I can't speak on because it's covered under the Child Care Act of Canada. So,
first of all, I think the public knows that now in terms of Malaya is a flight risk. Well, actually, We don't know that. This is a narrative that was put out by him and Durwood. So I'm not buying into it because I've not heard it from any credible source. And now he's got a hint on there's more to it than just that. There's, because it's covered under the Childcare Act of Canada. In other words, he's trying to throw shade on Malaya in terms of the way she treated her children. He wants to basically insinuate here that all the neglect and abuse none of that was him. He was the good guy. He was Daniel, the super dad. It's all Malaya. So he's basically bending over backwards to try and say that Baby M was taken because of Malaya. It's got nothing to do with him, and she's a bad person. Focus on her.
Well, I was going to say we'll drop that right then and there for that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
If you don't believe that any of you three had any knowledge of what happened to Jack and Lily on the property, in a sense, because you kind of always keep making these comments that almost like stick up for Malaya, like when you're saying
the reason why I made I can dive into some of that. Sorry to cut you off. I'm really bad for that.
So Sonny probably made a bad choice there asking that question, because it basically opened it up for him to continue to attack Malaya. He was on a roll. He was ready to keep going off at Malaya. And then he's like, well, I probably shouldn't. And then Sonny just lands another question that just basically gives him permission. Oh, yeah. To be legally banned from the reserve, there's got to be a good reason. It's not, you can't come on here just because we don't like the look of your face. You can't come on here because you're a bit of a smarmy git. There's got to be a real legal reason. They can't just say, yeah, you can't come here. Yeah, 2 missing kids. It's not just on Malaya, it's on both of them because they were both there. But he wants to throw it all back onto Malaya. He's getting ready to go with his favourite Malaya narrative, the one of this was all pre-planned. But before he does, he's got to try the cutting off Sonny. Now, I've mentioned this before. We've not seen this happening. No, I'll reword that. We only saw him up until when he was on Sonny's channel and Charmaine's channel in May. The one and only time we've seen Daniel cut someone off when they were talking was on the DT show. And that was when DT brought up the possibility that he said something along the lines of, well, people might consider that given the location of the blanket and the boot prints that it's kind of leading towards your uncle's place. And Daniel basically went into panic mode and he cut him off before he could finish talking. And he deflected from the blanket and started talking about the boot prints and started saying, oh, I've never went to I never saw the boot prints. I never went to where the boot prints were. I never saw the blanket in the tree. I never went to that location. Full on panic mode. That's the only time that he ever cut anyone off, up until these 2 recent panel things. And the reason I'm saying that in terms of significance is because I know I pointed it out, and I don't know if other content creators pointed it out, but it seems like he's now decided that that's going to be part of his strategy, like to claim, Well, I cut people off because I have ADHD and I do it all the time. I can't help it. But if you actually go and you actually look and you listen to all his previous interviews, there's only the one time that he ever did up until when he was on these panel or on Charmaine and Sunny's. Oh wow. Last year in Saskatchewan there was a rampage related to vengeance and rugs. That's so sad, so sad. Oh, I have to run that back. Sounds like you almost said the stuff I made up and stopped at. Let's run that back a little bit. I'm not sure how far back I need to go.
I think we already know this by now. Malay is a flight risk. With our daughter. I mean, that's.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we already kind of established that. I think the public kind of knows that by now. And also as well, there's a lot of stuff I can't speak on because it's covered under the Child Care Act of Canada. So
I was going to say we'll drop that right then and there for that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
If you don't believe that any of you three had any knowledge of what happened to Jack and Lily on the property, in a sense, because you kind of always keep making these comments that almost like stick up for Malaya, like when you're saying
the reason why I made I can dive into some of that.
Yeah, he did. The reason why I made, and then he has to stop. Good catch. I'll just listen to that in full then.
If you don't believe that any of you three had any knowledge of what happened to Jack and Lily on the property, in a sense, because you kind of always keep making these comments that almost like stick up for Malaya, like when you're saying
the reason why I made I can dive into some of that. Sorry to cut you off. I'm really bad for that.
That's fine. I'm gonna
but I apologize for that.
No,
he did. He started saying the reason I made that up, Daniel. Yep. Really, really good catch there, Sky Painter. Yeah, how can someone be a flight risk when they've got no charges, no probation, and I'm sorry, Daniel, but didn't you say that this is a missing persons investigation and that therefore there's no criminality? Yeah. The reason why I made that up. Thank you, Daniel. It's always good when you tell us these things.
The reason why I made I can dive into some of that. Sorry to cut you off. I'm really bad for that.
That's fine. I'm gonna
but I apologize for that.
No,
you know, a lot of stuff with Malaya just never added up, right? We already know at this time that her leaving me was premeditated, right?
Now we're going to throw in the rights here and there to make sure that the audience believes him, right? As in, this is you've got to believe this. This is the real deal. Note, you can tell it's a constructed narrative. He's choosing his words. He's taking his time to choose his words as he is basically saying this, essentially.
Due to the fact her clothes weren't here, right? And I don't know where her clothes were. The best speculation I have is she left them at Patty's house.
Okay, now we're hedging our bets here. Him and Janie were pushing this whole thing of that, you know, they took all these bags of laundry and they clearly didn't bring Malaya's clothes back when they went and did the laundry. Now he's trying to go back to Janie's version of things where you don't exactly lie about it. You just give enough for people to make the conclusion for themselves. So he's like, her clothes weren't here, and I don't know where they were. But the thing is, we have copies of messages that Daniel sent people where he's saying, oh, she did the same to me as what she did with Cody. She just up and left everything behind. So he's completely changed his narrative from Malaya left and didn't take anything with her to now Malaya pre-planned it and took everything beforehand, and I don't know where she put everything. Yeah. I know. When you hear it, when you hear the premeditated, that's the first thing your mind goes to, isn't it? That it sounds more like murder than like leaving someone. Because when you leave someone, it's not premeditated, it's something that you have planned beforehand. Again, leakage. He's trying to make it look like Malaya is responsible, even though he's trying to push the notion that the children are still alive. But his brain is mushing it all up together because his brain knows that the children are deceased. So you get these little words come out that are definitely leakage.
So that in itself left room for the perspective that I gained is,
oh my gosh, him and his bloody $5 words. That in itself left room for the perspective that I gained. Like, it's not even real English. I'm sorry. But now, I know I get really conscious when I joke about Daniel and his $5 words, because I know that as someone who comes from a slightly middle class background, someone who has, went through really good schools, that in terms of my language, maybe people might accuse me of using $5 words, and I'm not aware when I do throw out words that are perhaps, what other people might call $5 words. But that's just my upbringing, that's my background, and it's just I use them in context. But Daniel comes out with these words that just don't fit in the right spot. You got 7 words tonight, Unky. I'm glad someone is counting. We really should be keeping count of the rights and the $5 words, and the leakage. 100% word salad with bullshit dressing. 100%. Oh dear. Monday morning quarterback for sure. It seems like his toilet break has well and truly kicked in at this point in time, and that is now controlling his brain. Honestly, I just run it back a few seconds.
the perspective that I gained is, Malaya must have had something to do with this.
You think, Daniel? Yeah, let's all focus on Malaya now, because Daniel says so. Yeah, he's not as fast with the BS, but it hasn't worn off enough to stop him from filtering it out in the first place. It's just he's doing it more slowly. He's clueless. He's got no idea. Absolutely no idea. Like, he's... It's a huge word for him, perspective. He almost used it in the right context. It's just not natural. Like, it's like you would expect from someone who is English is their second language and they've learnt the grammar, they understand the grammar, they've learnt the kind of the meaning of the words, but they don't understand the social constructs when it comes to how to use the words. 100%. 100%. Take your newly gained perspective to the RCMP with your information of her premeditation. Yep, one day he will get there. We'll get those 4-syllable words eventually. It's going to take a bit longer. He needs a bigger thesaurus first. But he'll get there. If the kids are deceased, why have they not been found? There's 2 of them. Parker was found within 2 weeks. I believe it's because I believe they're buried on private land, in my opinion. Yeah, it really is. It's like someone... I tried to pin that and it didn't happen. It is. It sounds exactly like someone who has English as a second language. And they just can't quite get it right. Oh yeah, he's just getting ahead of the game. They're all panicking now, in my opinion. Because this is far less veiled than anything else he's come out with before. That's very direct to say Malaya must have had something to do with this. So very direct. Oh, you crack me up, Grover. Wait till Daniel finds out what a thesaurus is. He'll be unstoppable. Oh dear. So true. Now, I know that Linda Glover is about an hour behind us, but I'm just going to welcome her in and, yeah, looking at Jack's little face. Or are we looking at this one here? Because even this one here, he looks a bit swollen in the cheek. And he looks like he's got a bit of a black eye going on this one too. Yeah. I'm not going to point fingers. But, you know, Malaya must have had something to do with this. 100%, Kelly. So true. Oh dear.
And the only reason that I protected Malaya at the start was she was in possession of our daughter. And I didn't want her mental health to decline because she had our daughter in her possession at that time. And if Malaya's mental health was to decline, that would be it would directly impact our daughter's development and her emotional state and her mental state. And I didn't want that.
Well, that was being constructed right there on the spot, wasn't it? Now we know that he did come out early on, like I was saying before, at the first vigil, when he came out and was like, well, you know, focus away from Malaya because it's going to affect her mental health. He does. Possession. Oh, Anki, that's so hilarious. I need another notebook for the 4-syllable words. Yeah. Baby M is a possession. She was in possession of our daughter. Nobody says that about children. Welcome in, Nancy. Good to see you here. You do not use that when you're talking about children. But it shows you exactly what he's thinking. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about how in Charmaine's he kept having to correct himself because he kept referring to Baby M as his daughter, and then he'd have to stop and correct himself and refer to her as our daughter. But yeah, I'm the same. I've never heard anyone refer to having possession of a living being, of a child or person. You would say custody. But in his mind, it's possession. Because as far as he's concerned, Baby M is his. He's had to correct himself in the past. From when he's referred to her as his daughter, he's had to correct himself back to our daughter. And he resents the fact that Malaya took Baby M. Now, there is one major flaw in this logic here. Because he claims he protected her because she was in possession of their daughter. BS. He would have bent over backwards. If he was completely innocent, then he would have used Malaya's guilt to get Baby M back for himself. So saying that he protected her because she had Baby M goes against everything that we know about Daniel. He would be less likely to protect her because she had Baby M, because he would manipulate that so that he could get Baby M off her. So this story that he's coming up with is actually the complete opposite of what the truth would be. He didn't want her mental health to decline because, you know, she had our daughter in her possession. Makes it sound like drugs, honestly. And, you know, and if Malaya's mental health declined, that would be a direct impact on our daughter. He would have liked Malaya's mental health to decline to the point where he could point it out and have Baby M taken off her and handed over to him or to Logan. So it's just complete utter BS. Yeah. Exactly. He's criticising her for her parenting. But he hasn't got custody of any of his children. He can't even see any of his... Well, he can see Baby M with supervision, but his older two children, he can't even see it. I thought he was about to say in possession of an illegal substance. Yeah, I know. Possession is not what you use when you're talking about children. Whoops. Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's that whole narc thing. He sees her as a reflection of himself. Yeah, the no care thing. I put that up now, so anyone who missed that, didn't see that in chat, gets it. There is the message that I think it was to Sonny, where he said, I don't care about Malaya, I just want baby M. So he made it pretty clear early on that his focus was baby M. He wanted baby M. Even down to the baby and I will visit her in prison. Yeah, they've kept the baby on the reserve, and no one in his family had an option of custody. That is a really good point. Yeah, no, that's the saying. Sky Painter, possession is 9/10 of the law. 9/10 of the law. I think he's quite resentful that Malaya. Well, we know he's quite resentful that Malaya took baby M. That's not what the plan was in his mind. Yep. That's what his uncle claims. He wanted to have custody of baby M so he could get money, free house, all that sort of stuff. Okay, I can't. Sorry. Okay, moving on.
So, but I never protected Malaya and said that she never had anything to do with it at the start. I firmly believe that she did. But after...
Yep. He's definitely no holds barred now. I never protected Malaya and said she never had anything to do with it at the start. The only times he's actually protected Malaya and said she never had anything to do with it has been when he's been going on one of his Daniel things where he's like, I never had anything to do with the children going missing. Malaya didn't have anything to do with it, and my mum didn't have anything to do with it. And they're the three people on the property. Basically, you know, he changes his tune. He's definitely had times when he's claimed that Malaya had nothing to do with it when it suited him. But he's been making sure to insinuate that definitely she's had a lot to do with it from the get-go.
Time goes on, and we get to learn more and more, and I learn more behind the scenes. And I know that Malaya had, polygraphs, and they were the same as mine.
Were her second questions the same? Because you said that your questions were not the same as Haley's.
Yeah, what I see, I don't know if investigators will like me talking about this.
This is when Daniel doesn't know the answer. So he's got to find a way of deflecting. And quite often the deflection comes from, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. This is stalling time. It's thinking time. And also thinking about how best he can land Malaya in it.
I know because they can't fill me in on some things, but what I took from the conversations, I'm sorry, investigators, but what I took for the conversations and what I gained is from my own personal experiences, my own personal experience, yeah. Right? I can't speak for Malaya. I can't speak for anyone else. I can't speak for investigators. I can only speak on what I see, yeah. And what I heard. And
oh dear God, spit it out! Honest to goodness. Oh yeah. This is, and I think Daniel actually learned this from Durwood because we haven't seen this so much until Durwood came out. Honest to goodness, how much do you have to hedge around things before you actually spit out what you've got to say? Like, for feck's sake.
I felt, right? I said at the start, I took it as me and Malaya had the same questions. Investigators know that I didn't plant the blanket up the road because I entered Lansdowne only that morning, very briefly, with Malaya's vehicle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they wouldn't have told him anything, exactly, and welcome in deafening silence. He's really not answered the question at all because he didn't have an answer. It's like, well, it's what I gained from my own personal experience and, my personal experience, right, because I know jack shit. Oh, thank you for the jewels, deafening silence. Okay. Catch you later, Teresa. Thanks for coming in. Well, my take on it also, and if you check out the video that I put out late last night, him emphasizing that it's Malaya's vehicle goes back to my theory that the piece of blanket may have come off an ATV or the back of a truck. I think without realizing what he's doing, he's leaking here and saying he was in Malaya's vehicle, so like it couldn't have come off the back of that. But this is where's that gone? This is Daniel logic. He didn't have drugs because he didn't get arrested for them. Now, he didn't have anything to do with planting it because he wasn't there at the time that it was found. There's no logic in his argument.
Investigators know that I didn't plant the blanket up the road because I entered Lansdowne only that morning, very briefly, with Malaya's vehicle. The blanket was found in the tree after, it was like 3:29 or 3:49 or something of that nature. And I wasn't on Lansdowne Road at that time, so therefore I don't have anything to do with the blanket.
So, in his mind, if he were to have planted it, he would have had to have stayed on location and wait for someone to find it. Honestly, it's insane. Well, I couldn't have planted it because I wasn't there at the time it was found. Good on you, Daniel. So, if I walk outside and put a $2 coin on the footpath outside for someone to find, because $5 note would probably blow away, and then I came back inside, and someone came and they found that, does that mean that I didn't plant it because I wasn't there when they found it? There's no logic here whatsoever. Spot on. They weren't interested in rugs on the property. Especially in the early days. Can you imagine the fallout on any law enforcement agency if someone calls in a missing child and they arrest them for drug possession? But it just does not happen.
And so
that's a hard one for me, Daniel. That one's, that's a hard one for me, that whole blanket. That blanket,
yeah, it's still very mysterious that it's the only evidence that we have.
I actually not even sure if I've got any coins. I tend to pay for everything on my bank card. So I couldn't give you a hint. Because the coin doesn't exist. Oh, yeah. Yep, I know. He does. It's like, it wasn't me, I wasn't in the lobby, so it couldn't have been me. He's not good with the logic side of things.
At that time, so therefore I don't have anything to do with the blanket. And so
That's a hard one for me, Daniel. That one's, that's a hard one for me, that whole blanket. That blanket,
yeah, it's still very mysterious that it's the only evidence that we have, or I shouldn't say that we have, or investigators have for the case. And it's very hard to wrap your mind around that 2 children go missing, and the only evidence that's concrete is that is Lily's piece of a blanket hanging in the tree almost 1 kilometer away.
I just want to point out, it's not the only evidence. In his mind, it's the only evidence. He's basically trying to minimize things now. And this is probably why he's pushing so hard to say that it's planted and to say that Malaya's family are responsible. Because he doesn't consider the fact that of those thousands and thousands of images and videos, that there are things there that would be evidence. He doesn't consider the fact that, there's all this other digital evidence that they would have. This is just the tip of the iceberg with this case, in my opinion. But in his mind, this is the big bit of evidence in the case. If it's been planted by someone, it's not really evidence of much. But if it has somehow blown off the back of or come off the back of a 4-wheeler or the back of a truck, yeah, it could be evidence. But he doesn't know if they've collected anything else as evidence. He thinks that's the only evidence. Oh yeah, I would have loved to have seen his face as part of that, because I think he's hoping it's the only bit of evidence. And I think he's possibly, I think you're right, he probably is gloating a bit. He hasn't heard of any other evidence, so he thinks, well, they can't really have much on me because that's the only bit of evidence they've got. And I'm going to push hard to make sure that people believe that it was planted by Malaya's family. Is this why he believes that essentially Lily and Jack will never be found and that the case will never be solved? Because he believes if he keeps pushing that the blanket was planted by Malaya's family, and that's the only bit of evidence, that they couldn't possibly take this to the next step. Yeah. I have no doubt that there's more evidence. There's going to be things that we're not going to be told about. Yes, there was the public radio chatter, the dispatch audio in the first couple of days. But if you listen, you do hear them mention other channels. So things that were found, there are times when you hear references to discussing things on other channels or about other things that haven't been actually mentioned in the audio. So we can't say just because there's no public evidence of anything having been found that there isn't any other evidence. For all we know, they could have something major that is super, super incriminating. Oh, I know. I know. How does he keep circling the drain for 7 more hours of this? It's insane. It's not really. Oh, hang on. It's not really 6 foot up from what he's saying. And if you have something on the back of a truck and it just comes out and catches the slipstream, then it could well go up in the air a bit first, depending on the speed, just depending on the angle. But there's also the possibility of, now that we know that track where it was found, you can actually go up that track and join up on other tracks. So if someone went up there with a four-wheeler, a little ATV, and had it on the back, and it caught up in a tree and flicked into the tree, then that's a possibility. Eventually, it puts things to the ground, but first you've got the slipstream that's going to just take it back away from the vehicle. There's a lot of variables. There's actually videos you can look at where they show you the airflow and stuff over vehicles, and you can see instances where that the shape of something will actually flick it further up into the air first. Anyway.
And for Malaya's family to find that is an aspect that causes the mind to run wild with theories and speculation and conspiracies. But
I mean,
after the polygraphs are administered, it's such a, because I don't know the results of everyone's polygraph. I only know my own.
yeah.
I don't know the results of everyone's polygraph. I only know my own. He desperately wants to know how people went in the polygraphs. He didn't finish his thought there. He was trying to figure out what to say in terms of the polygraphs, trying to say that, that's changed something, but he doesn't know what that's changed, but it's significant. He's trying to find a way to throw it back on Malaya's family. And he was trying to use the polygraphs, and then he just couldn't think of what to say. So he's just basically fallen flat.
You about the blanket at all?
I was never asked in my polygraphs about the blanket.
Okay.
I was only ever told that it was planted, and I think, and I brought that to the public, and no one believed me. No one believed me when I talk, and that.
That's too funny. No one believes me when I talk. You think, Daniel? That's too funny. Do you think there's a reason why no one believes you when you talk, Daniel? That'd be really good, Grover. It depends on how it would hit the bush, Anki. This is something we can debate another time. don't forget too that we're talking about this stuff happening in the early hours of the morning in the dark. So if it was like, you know, sitting on the back of a four-wheeler or something and it caught in a tree, they wouldn't have seen it. Or if they're heading back down Lansdowne Road and it flicks up against the edge of the tray, and then that would flick it in the air. You know, no idea. Anyway, moving on with this. He's, again, really going on with this whole polygraphing about the blanket. He's deflecting here because he's already admitted that he was interviewed about the blanket quite extensively. So he's trying to, because the topic is polygraph, he's trying to basically say, well, they don't consider me because they didn't make me do a polygraph about the blanket. He's ignoring the fact that he's already said he had to do a rather lengthy interview about the blanket. Yep. Good point. Why not just say no one believes me when I talk? Why not just why say that instead of, like, you know, no one believes me. He has to embellish everything. He has to really convince people, and he thinks that the more he says, the more convincing he is. Well, but I'm not sure. I thought that there was some mention at some point where he said he had to do a polygraph about the blanket. But I must be wrong because I haven't found reference to that. But he's definitely said that he did a lengthy interview about the blanket. No, they checked the area really thoroughly. When the blanket was found originally, they took a scent dog in, and that dog was in there for something like 4 hours, checking all the trails, didn't pick up a scent from anywhere coming off from where the blanket was. And then when they brought the human remains detection dogs in, they had them there for 3 days. And they took both dogs to the site where the blanket was found, and they didn't come up with anything. And they would have done the same with those dogs. They would have worked outwards from the location of the blanket. So certainly it doesn't seem like, you know, certainly the children didn't put it there. And it certainly seems that their remains aren't in the vicinity of that blanket. I never thought about that. Used as a marker for someone who was not familiar with the area. Like maybe someone who was coming in late at night to help with a cover-up, and maybe someone was so off the show that they forgot to take it back down. That I'd never thought about it that way. Oh, he does. He passes everything. So, yeah, he probably did pass his DNA test with flying colours. Oh, you're right. It's surprising he hasn't said that. No, we've never seen any of the unredacted statements about any of the polygraphs. I'd never considered the thought of it being used as a marker. Like flagging tape, yeah. And it was meant to have been taken down and someone forgot about it. I mean, when you consider Daniel was so off the show, clearly, for like 4 days by the sounds of it. So if it had been put there as like a marker, oh my gosh, that's just a mind-blowing thought. I'd never considered that, but that's really feasible. Because certainly from Brad's account, it wasn't just one car going back and forth. He talks about the last car that came through was quiet. You've got Durwood getting really paranoid when Sonny suggests that it's not normal for them to have given Daniel a phone when they had his, and that they were probably monitoring his phone and recording his calls. Suddenly Durwood gets really paranoid. That's definitely a very interesting thought. I'll just play a little bit more, and then I might wrap it up.
Completely
I
fine.
believed it was
Hang on.
planted.
Run wild with theories and speculation and conspiracies. But
I mean,
after the polygraphs are administered, it's such a, because I don't know the results of everyone's polygraph. I only know my own.
yeah. Did they ask you about the blanket at all?
I was never asked in my polygraphs about the blanket.
Okay.
I was only ever told that it was planted, and I think, you know, and I brought that to the public, and no one believed me. No one believed me when I talk, and that's completely fine.
I believed it was planted. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course, and that's what I said. That's what I say too. Like, I didn't need investigators to tell me that the blanket didn't randomly grow wings and fly up there and land in a tree. And then when you look in the documents, it says that, you know, Hayden said it was like 2.5 or 3 feet off of the ground.
Right.
That blanket was hanging clearly above my head. It was 6 feet. Yeah, I'm 5'10", so it was at eye level. So it's around 6 feet in the air, draped over a branch. The kids couldn't put that there.
Okay, I think the major misinterpretation that's coming here in terms of what Hayden says, what Haley says, what Daniel says. First of all, Daniel claims he's not seen the location of the blanket. So it seems that he's basing it on the search ribbons. The search ribbons weren't necessarily put on the branch that the blanket was on. Because the point of the search ribbons is marking it to say, we've been here, we've searched, we've checked this location. The reason those search ribbons were put there, if you listen to the dispatch audio, was because someone called the tattered t-shirts in on day 2, because when they found the blanket and they went and collected the blanket, they didn't collect the tattered shirts because they were insignificant, but nobody actually flagged the location. So the ribbons that you see in the tree that mark the location of where the blanket was, they were put there to show searchers that the scraps, the shredded t-shirts that were on the ground, they were put there to show searchers that they'd been seen, they'd been tagged, they'd been acknowledged. So this presumption from Daniel and Janie that this is where the blanket was is actually wrong. So there's that for starters. We don't know. We only know what is said in the documents. Well, they weren't exactly shredded. They were described as being rags. Old T-shirts that had been there for some time on the ground under where the piece of blanket was found. But just, old, rotted out, essentially, by the sounds of it. And they weren't, because they had clearly been there for a long time, they weren't collected, they weren't evidence or anything. And nobody thought to put ribbons there. So then what you hear in the dispatch is someone calls it in the following day, and they actually say, no, that's, that we've done that location, and can you put ribbons on it? So the ribbons in the tree that Janie and Daniel think mark the location of the blanket, they're not marking the exact location of the blanket. They're marking the location of the rags on the ground. They're telling people, don't worry about calling in these rags on the ground because we've been here, we've searched here. So the blanket was not 6 foot in the air. We have different heights. Yeah, it's flagging tape. It's not used. Well, it is used to show locations of things, but it's to show this thing that you can see here, we've searched it, we've acknowledged it, we've recorded it. When you see the searchers go through the woods, when they enter the woods, they put a bit of flagging tape on the tree where they enter the woods. That's not saying that there's a piece of evidence in that tree. That's them marking where they've been. And that's all this is. Whoever put the flagging tape in the tree wouldn't have even known the location of the blanket when they did it, because it was done the following day. So we've got different heights. Yeah, that is a big discrepancy. People are not good at judging heights and measurements and stuff as well, because I don't think I could pull it up all that quickly, but I know Hayden's account is actually, I might, hang on, just bear with me while I hop into my folder and I'll see if I can find, okay, and I can't bring it up on screen because I'm still in Safari. I can't, for some reason, after managing to make Google Chrome work, it crashed on me again. Okay, so let me see. If I flick through, I should be able to get it in front of me, and then I can tell you what was said in terms of heights. Right. Okay, hang on. I'm getting there. Bear with me. Right, Emily. Emily doesn't give a height. She just says the blanket was hanging in a tree. I think Haley and Hayden. So Hayden says it was hanging 3 or 3.5 feet off the ground. trying to find Haley's. Don't tell me I haven't got Haley's here. Haley said the blanket was hanging on a branch. It was like it was thrown there. She didn't think any of them touched the blanket. Okay, so it must be the actual original report of them finding the blanket, which I'm not sure if I've got that directly in front of me. Hang on. No, I can't find it. Well, again, because Daniel's going by the location of the ribbons of the flagging tape, not the location of the blanket itself. He didn't see the blanket in the tree. So he actually doesn't know what height it was. Yeah. I mean, the only way, if he says that he didn't see it in the tree, the only way he could actually know exactly what branch it was on would be if he put it there himself. The other thing with the possible discrepancy is that if you actually look at that spot, that road that goes up is elevated from the base of the tree. So if you're on the road, maybe it is 3 foot, but if you go down the slope of the road to the ground directly under the tree, then that's going to probably add another foot to it. Yeah, Joni and Daniel both recorded videos with the location of the tree, and they both had it in their heads that the flagging tape was the exact location of the blanket. But that's not how it works with search and rescue. And like I said, it wasn't flagged when the blanket was collected, because you hear the audio the following day when they actually talk about it, and they're like, no, that should have been flagged. Can you flag it? Yeah, it's a A to B trail junction. Apparently not. Apparently not. If there is, we haven't been shown it. RCMP would have done thorough photographs of it. But as for what we have, all we have is what's out there, that one single image. So, that kind of makes it tricky to figure it out. That's for sure. But yeah, in terms of height, hang on. I think the only reference I can see right now is Hayden saying it's 3 to 3.5 feet. There doesn't seem to have been a reference from Haley or Emily in terms of height. What I can see here in terms of the report where it was mentioned that it was located, all it says here is that they came out of the woods to say they found a pink blanket in the woods. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. There is, let me bring up the blanket picture. Just give me half a moment. There's a large branch that, I need to take that off for a moment. There's a large branch that is actual horizontal, that's about the thickness of an arm, probably, down at the bottom of the exclamation mark. So if it was possible to actually try and figure out the location of that particular branch, then it might be possible to find the location of the blanket. The other branches, it would be hard to really identify the spot. But I think if you were to identify that horizontal branch, that might give the actual location. The Globe and Mail, no, I think it was possibly CBC or CTV, one of those, and in their article, they label it as supplied, which is essentially saying it didn't come from us. So they haven't really given a clear answer of where it came from, but that it was supplied to them. There is that whole Canadian media seem to be a hell of a lot better than Australian media in that they have this thing called ethics. So it's my understanding that they wouldn't run with an unverified image. So all we know is that it was provided to the media, but we don't know who it was provided by, whether it was given to them by Haley or whether it was given to them by the RCMP. I would suspect it was probably given to them by Haley because I know this was circulating long before it came out in the media. Yeah. I went looking to see if I could find it on eBay. And I found ones in the States. But if I were to buy one, by the time I paid postage, it would cost me well over $100. I would love to see someone do some experiments, especially to see how easily it rips. Because at the end of the day, whether it was planted or got there by accident, what is significant here is the fact that they've all lied about it. To me, how it got there is actually insignificant. We won't be able to find that out for ourselves. But what we can take away from this whole thing with the blanket is the fact that Daniel and Malaya are both bending over backwards to lie about it. It's significant to both of them. In fact, it's so significant that after 15 months of staying silent about her children being missing, after 15 months of hiding out, Malaya gets someone to put a statement out on her behalf about this freaking blanket to throw the shade on Daniel. So the big question here is more, why is it so important for Daniel and Malaya? Why is it so important for both of them to convince people they have nothing to do with that blanket and to convince people to look at the other party? I think that's the most significant thing here, as opposed to how it got in the tree or where it was before it got in the tree. Because their stories have changed so many ways with this blanket. And they're both claiming it ripped. Well, I'd like to see someone show me a video of them ripping one of these lol surprise blankets. Because you can't rip Rochelle knit. It's all looped through. It's not in a linear weave. Yeah. Oh, that's okay, Charlotte. I'm actually just about to wrap it up, but thank you so much for coming in. I'm just commenting on that, you know, they're insisting that this blanket was ripped, but you can't rip it. Yeah. Well, that's, you know, that's probably one of the first things forensics would have seen. There would have been loose fibers from it being cut. No, not Rochelle. Not Rochelle blankets. Not at all. Because it's not a linear weave. It's the way it's put together. And I don't think I've got the images. I think after I finished doing the video last night that I deleted them. This is not a great example. But it was the best one that I could find online. Essentially, the fibers are these are polyester fibers. They're not like natural fibers, so they don't stretch as much anyway. But they're looped through. The machine that's used for a Rochelle knit is very different to the machines that would be used for other kind of materials. And the fibers are like looped through each other. And we're talking really tight, like the original dimension of the blanket, I know, was something like 5 foot one way and possibly longer the other way. It was quite a large blanket. But you cannot rip Rochelle fleece. And because it's polyester, it doesn't just degrade. It would take like years and years, like way more than the 6 years that Lily was alive. It's treated so that it stays color fast, so that it is it doesn't rot or anything. It's impervious to, like, you know, you get it wet, it's going to dry really quickly because it's not soaking in or anything. It's not going to rot or anything like that. So after a few years, this blanket would still be in as good condition as it was when they purchased it. If you, yep, thank you. 229 centimeters on the long side. Yep, it's polyester. It's plastic. They don't degrade. The edges are basically reinforced. It's actually, I believe it's a double weave, so that it's a double layer, which is why you see with these blankets quite often that it'll have the design on the front and the black back. You might not see the reverse of the design because it's a double weave. It's like back to back. They will melt when burned, that's for sure. They are a major fire hazard in that respect. But they don't rip. you would have to cut them. It's the way the process is. The only way you would rip one of these, in my opinion, would be if you were to, first of all, maybe start off a lengthy cut so you've got something that you can pull against. And if you were to then tie it to the tow bar of two different vehicles and rip it apart that way. It's not something that is going to easily rip. It's certainly not something that's going to be ripped when you put it up in a window. The edges of it are reinforced, so it's not even going to get the beginning of, you would have to have ripped the edge off it, like the binding first. But it's just the way they're made. Anyway, it's getting on and the dogs are starting to stir, wanting to get out. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you didn't see the video that I put out where I went in length about the lies and everything about the blanket, definitely go check that out. It's a slightly long one, but it certainly highlights what the main issue here is when it comes to the blanket. The main issue here is the fact that Daniel and Malaya are both bending over backwards to put out a narrative about this blanket, to steer the narrative and to lie. And I think that's the most significant thing. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for coming in. Please hit the like button on the way out. That always helps me out. If you're new, please subscribe. If you're listening on replay, please leave a comment. Even if you're not listening on replay, feel free to go back and leave a comment. And thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.